What's cracking, peeps? Darren McDuffie here, alias Fat Man, helping you become perfectly healthy and toned and conscious, of course. Haven't done one of these Facebook Lives in a while, just simply because I've been traveling, but I wanted to get back on here and try to do this really every Tuesday, just to give you some things to think about. But tonight we're going to be talking about your body has its own consciousness. So if you even know what consciousness is, that ability to be aware, and I always call myself a facilitator of information so that you can become more conscious, because I believe that most people make decisions on an unconscious level. We make decisions based upon only what we see. We don't gather enough information in order to make an informed decision. So that's why I call myself a facilitator of information through my podcast, through all the things that I post, so you can become more aware of who you really are. And instead of making a one-sided decision, you can always make a decision from a more conscious level. And that's when you choose what's best for you. It doesn't mean that what I say is always going to be correct, but what it does mean is that you will be able, again, to make those decisions from a conscious level. So when we talk about the body is made up of over 37 trillion cells. I believe 37.2 trillion cells. And these cells are always moving around. If you were ever in high school and you took a glimpse of some cells under a microscope in biology class, and you saw these cells, and you know these cells are always constantly moving around. And one of the big things right now, people are talking about how to boost their immune system. So you know, with your immune system comes that ability to fight off disease, to fight off bacteria. And when you have these foreign invaders in your body, what the white blood cells do is they engulf those bacteria and eat them, and then you become more healthy. And that's just a simplified version of the way that you can look at it. But these 37.2 trillion cells are always regenerating. Your skin cells are always regenerating. Your other cells within your body are always generating. So if your cells are consciousness and your body is made up of your cells, so you have your cells, you have your tissues, you have your organs, and that all makes up your body. And then you have what's encapsulated, your skin, to hold all this stuff together so you don't see everything that's underneath. Then you know that your cells are consciousness. And if your cells are consciousness, then that means your body is consciousness. So what does this all mean to you as an individual? I'm going to talk about things from a soul level, from a soul perspective, because I believe, again, that most of us are not aware of this vehicle that we're in. Your soul is that thing. If you ever took a look at Men in Black, I remember watching this Men in Black, and inside this big guy, there was this little tiny alien. So if you can think of your soul in that aspect, it'll make a whole lot of sense to you to see what I'm really talking about. So you are this soul, this little tiny alien inside this big gigantic body, and your body is the vehicle. You're actually driving this, and you're driving it by your thoughts, you're driving it by your emotions and the things that you're doing on a day-to-day basis. Most people are disconnected from what they're doing on a daily basis. Most of us are living on an unconscious level. We're not aware of who we really are when we come here. Most of us are just aware that I go to my job, I go to my 9 to 5 every day, and when I get done with that, I come home, and we're constantly doing that. We're going to work, we're coming back. Maybe on the weekends we do something that's a little bit different, but we're all doing something that we are unaware of on a subconscious level. But when you look at your body, again, your body is just a vehicle. Your mind will always listen to your body. So you want to be careful what you say in your mind, because your body is always listening. And this can be a detriment, or it can be a plus. It can be an advantage, and I'm going to explain to you a little bit later how this can be an advantage to you. So once you understand that, you can understand that what you put into your body is either going to fuel your vehicle or deplete your vehicle. A lot of people are realizing that food is very powerful. I believe on the last segment I talked about food sensitivities and how food can be a medicine or it can be a poison. So when you're looking at your soul, your body, the vehicle, and what you're putting into the body, you have to realize that, again, this food, this thing that you're nurturing your body with is very, very important. What you're feeding your mind is very, very important. The thoughts and emotions that you have on a daily basis, again, are very important as well. So how do you change your body when you're going through illness, when you're going through sickness? I want to just tell you a short story. I was watching a video of Joe Dispenza. Joe Dispenza has spent over 20 years studying the mind-body connection, and the way that he started doing that is through his own accident. He was in a triathlon, and just so happened that at some point in time he's on the bicycle part of the triathlon and fell off his bicycle. I think there was an accident of some sort, and what happened was he fell off the bike and he had some damage to his back. He went to the doctor. They rushed him to the emergency room and they told him, they said, you may never walk again unless you get this surgery. He elected not to do the surgery. What he elected to do was to go home and spend some time just seeing if he could change his body by using his mind. And I think it took him 6.5 weeks to make that connection with his body. And once he made that connection with his body, he said he started to visualize fixing his vertebrae and fixing everything that was wrong. And within that time, after 6.5 weeks, he began walking again. And that whole thing convinced him that there is something to this mind-body connection. And I said earlier that your body will always listen to your mind. So be careful what you feed your mind, because your body, again, is always listening. Now, he's been studying these principles for over 20 years. And what he learned, he said, through these principles is that when he first started, the reason why it took him 6.5 months to really make that connection with his body is because he was focusing on what he did not want. Many of us focus on what we don't want. When we are having illness, we have a sickness, what we're primarily focusing upon is what we don't want. We don't want to be sick, but your mind always says you're sick, sick, sick. So your mind is focusing on being sick. And a lot of times when we have a diagnosis, a doctor gives us a diagnosis, we become that illness. We become the diabetic. We become the cancer patient. We become the lupus patient. We become the autoimmune patient. And we can't really bring ourselves against, or go against the grain rather, to become something else. That diagnosis is always old news. Whatever diagnosis you receive will always be old news. It's up to you to be able to change your story. And the way that you change your story is primarily through your consciousness. So after those 6.5 weeks, he said he made that connection. And after making that connection, he began to heal himself. And through constantly doing this day to day, he began again healing himself, and surely but surely he began to walk again. And this brings me to one point that I've learned, that everything in our lives is about repetition. And the reason why a lot of people don't believe a lot of the things that I might say on this podcast is because they've only tried it once. They don't do anything through repetition. And your life is always about progression and repetition. None of us had learned to ride a bike the first time we tried. When you were a kid, you wanted to learn how to ride a bike. I remember falling many times over before I got that smooth motion of riding a bike. So everything in our lives are about repetition. You don't go to a job and learn everything to do on the first day. You learn, and once you repeat that over time, probably over a year or so, you get in the groove of that job. You know what the job is, what's expected of you at the job, and you begin feeling more and more comfortable. But when it comes to our body, we live in this instant society. We want to have things instantaneously. We want to be sick, then we want to be well. And I remember my own personal experience with really changing my thoughts and changing everything around different things. It took time. You don't change a lifetime of bad thoughts in a day. You got those thoughts over time, and that's the same thing with the body. But what Joe Dispenza says is that it was about repetition. He was spending an hour a day just trying to make that connection, and when that connection came about, it was, for lack of a better word, instantaneous. It took him a long time, but it was, for lack of a better word, instantaneous, because once he made that connection, then the healing happened for him. So again, it's all about repetition and doing these things over and over and over again. That's why a lot of people have issues when you talk about manifestation. A lot of people have issues with that because it takes an amount of repetition to keep focusing your mind on what you want. But what we do as human beings is we focus on our mind for what we want, and then we focus on our mind what we don't want. And you always have this seesaw battle going on within yourself, and therefore you can't see the healing. You can't see the manifestation because you don't have the correct focus. You have this seesaw battle going on within yourself, and therefore you aren't able to see that focus. You aren't able to see the healing occur because, again, you're not focused on that. You're focused on what you don't want. So when you begin to do this, a lot of times you're not going to make that instantaneous connection with your body. It's going to take you a while. I remember walking around, I shot a video many months ago, probably about a year ago, and I remember walking around a lake near my house, and I had a headache. And I kept asking myself, I said, well, what's going on? What's bothering me? What's nagging me? And when I could pinpoint what was nagging me, and I soothed myself, talked myself a little bit more around that point, the headache went away. And this is how our body is meant to heal. This is how your body will naturally heal. If you get a cut, the cut heals up. So why don't people believe that the body can heal in the same way? And the reason why we don't believe that the body can heal in the same way is just because of what I just said. We have these constant beliefs we don't believe, or we're not focusing on what we really want. We're in this seesaw battle with ourselves, and therefore your cells don't know what to do. Your cells want to heal you. Your body wants to do what you tell it to, but you have to be clear and precise about the message that you send to it. I encounter a lot of people who say, from a nutritional standpoint, they don't know what to eat. They just don't know what's healthy, and they don't know all that. Ask your body what to eat. Sit in a quiet space. It might take you a while to do this. Sit in a quiet space and ask your body, hey, what do I like to eat? Your body may tell you you're more meat. I know my body responds to meat. I love meat, and that's what I eat. I may throw in a little bit of vegetables in there and things of that nature, but I know my body likes meat. That's what my body thrives on. You have to be your own guru and ask your body, hey, what is it that I like to eat? Your body may tell you that, hey, I don't want to eat bread anymore, or whatever it is. But you have to be able to sit and not even be patient, be tuned in to listen to what your body is telling you, because again, your body has its own consciousness, and it will tell you what it likes to eat, what it best burns fuel on. Some people are going to do better with the keto diet. Some people are going to do better with the paleo diet. Some people might even do better with a vegan diet. But you have to ask your body, what do I do my best work on, or what fuels my body? And again, that connection may not come the first time you sit down. That connection may not come the second time. You have to be willing to sit and keep repeating. Keep that repetition going. Keep the repetition going, and your body will at some point give you the answer. But for a lot of us, we want that instantaneous process. We want that ability to solve our problem right then. And what it comes down to, or boils down to, is maintaining that connection, the mind-body connection. And that connection is very important because, again, I can tell you what to eat. There's a lot of nutritionists that can tell you what to eat. There's what doctors out here that can tell you what to eat. But you are always your own best guru. Darren McDuffie, alias Fat Man, helping you become perfectly healthy in tone and conscious, of course. One love, y'all. I'm out.